Okay, so I would like to start the first session with Dr. Shea Esterling from Aotearoa, who's going to come speak to us about protecting our dark skies. Okay, thank you.
Brilliant. So do I need to click on?
Back and forth.
Let's do it. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Kia ora, ko waitiene, ki pukena, matua ahu kiti whare wanana o Waitaha, ko Shea Esterling toko ingoa. Good morning. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples on whose lands we meet today, paying respects to elders past, present, and emerging. And I'd also like to pay my respects to the Indigenous peoples on whose land I live, work, and play in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and that's the Ngāi Tuariri. So with that said, what am I doing here? Today I'm going to talk about my research that's being funded by the Born Foundation. It's a travel and learning award for law academics in New Zealand. And the goal of the Born Foundation is to fund projects that are for the benefit of all New Zealanders. With this travel and learning award, it's going to allow me to visit all places that have been designated as international dark sky places by the organization Dark Sky International, both in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and here in Australia. Before I begin, it's important to acknowledge that the project I'm currently working on comes from a previous project of work that was undertaken collaboratively at the University of Canterbury, where I'm based, amongst a number of members of the law faculty, as well as our resident astronomer who kept us on the straight and narrow at all times. And she does happen to be the sort of astronomer who gets upset if you call her an astrologer. So I did learn that from her. And then when she gets a little bit feisty with it, I just tell her, you're being such a Capricorn. And that just really pushes it, really pushes it. Right, so here was our Team Space Law, or the Space Cadets as we're known. And we started with a project looking at the threat of artificial light at night, or ALAN, to our dark skies. As I said, this collaborative research project set me on this path for the current project that I'm working on to identify, because in effect, that project identified a number of problems regarding ALAN, and it also provided me with a pretty extensive basis for literature review. So what I'll do today to mix it up and make it a little bit different from what I presented on at the school last week is, in this presentation, I'll go through what my current project is, mapping it onto this particular research process. So in terms of identifying the problem, so as noted, the initial research project, in that project, we identified that ALAN has significantly increased and that it's not set to slow. And the knock-on effect is impacts on ecological health, including human and environmental health. And further, despite the fact that we have these impacts, there is no law either at the international level or the domestic level in Aotearoa, New Zealand, which protects against artificial light at night. So this is the research context in which my current project sits. I don't know why I keep it animated. I don't need to keep it animated. There we go. They're all up now. There we go. So very, very briefly, what is ALAN? So ALAN is indiscriminate light as a product of human activity in our planetary environment. We can think of ALAN as anthropogenic light pollution, principally coming in two different forms. So on this rather inelegant slide, hopefully you can see that in part it comes from unmitigated urban lighting from here on Earth, but it also comes from the build out of satellite constellations that are slowly forming a net of moving light across our near Earth environment. So two forms of ALAN there, but the fundamental is it's anthropogenic light pollution. And so what I plan to do here is to build then on the literature review that we had that identified this as a problem. So the initial project, as I said, showed that ALAN is set to increase and that the process is definitely not set to slow. And we're already seeing the knock-on effects or impacts that it has on ecological health, including human and environmental health. And further, despite the fact that we have these impacts, as noted, there are no laws domestically in New Zealand or internationally which help protect against ALAN. So in terms of the first impact here, some interesting stats, not to bore you to death, but a few things I found interesting, particularly as a person who doesn't come from a science background. But why is it a problem? What are these problems that it creates to human and environmental health? I was really interested to read that in this disruption of circadian rhythms that we get as a result of artificial light at night, it leads to a substantial increase of breast cancer, which is the leading cause of cancer and death in women. Also surpassing what natural light levels are has a broad range of environmental impacts. So for instance, if you have changes in natural behavior here that are widespread, including increased predation and variation in reproductive cycles, especially for those species that are cued to light levels for spawning. And the results that we have seen have been localized or permanent extinction, ultimately reducing biodiversity. So it is problematic, and that's part of the driver of the project. Just how big, however, is this problem? Well, in May 2020, there were 2,200 satellites in orbit. 30,000 are expected in the next 5 years. And more broadly, according to the Australian and New Zealand Space Council, Space Law Council, by the end of this decade, it's estimated that there will be between 60 and 100,000 objects in orbit, so satellites, debris, etc. This here on the slide, so this is a little clip that I've taken from Leo Labs that shows a visual. And so I put it on the maximum, clicked all the boxes at the top, so show me everything that's out there. And so this was at the end of March, 22,766 objects in orbit. And just to note, every time I check back, if I have a presentation and have to talk about these numbers, that little number in the corner goes up and up and up and up and up every single time. I've obviously circled Aotearoa, New Zealand, so you can see us there. Sorry, I didn't circle Australia for this presentation. I normally do, but you know where you are. We know where we're at. So you can see here the consequence really is the loss of dark skies. But as noted, and what we found very interesting at the end of that collaborative project is that there are no explicit laws actually protecting our dark skies. So very briefly, so as not to repeat too much from the school the other day, but in essence, if we look at international law, it's not particularly helpful for the purposes of protecting our dark skies. At best, what we get here is something called the La Palma Declaration, which it explicitly addresses preserving dark skies, but as its name suggests, it's a declaration. So under international law, as a declaration, it has no binding force. It creates no enforceable obligations. The remainder of outer space law, so we have the Outer Space Treaty or the OST, not really very particularly helpful either. Article 7 of the OST makes state parties liable for damage caused by their objects or its component parts, including any nationals, so both the state and any nationals within that state. But the reality is that most small diameter space debris isn't actually attributed to any party of origin, making what I like to call space and dark skies the protagonist in the tragedy, The Commons. If we turn to domestic law in Aotearoa, New Zealand, again, there are no specific laws for the protection of dark skies. The closest thing that we get here is our Outer Space and High Altitude Activities Act 2017, or OSHA. And what OSHA does is it implements, or it gives effect to our obligations that Aotearoa has under the Outer Space Treaty 1967, which it signed and ratified. Really interestingly, we've been a party to the OST for quite some time, since the 60s. We just never, in fact, actually implemented or gave any legislation to provide for that within New Zealand. But the OSHA Act really is more concerned with launching permits and licensing and safety regulations, and not actually anything about any provisions there in relation to dark skies. The closest that we could find in relation to protection of dark skies in Aotearoa, at best, you have local council regulations for that light that we talked about in ALAN that comes from Earth, and that unmitigated urban lighting. So, light pollution regulations, that's at a local level for local councils. We had on the first or second slide, one of the research assistant, Alex Davis, who was up there in the photo. Lovely Alex, painstakingly combed through all local council lighting policy regulations across New Zealand, a really thankless task there. And what she found is yes, very wide variation from almost nothing at all to those areas which would be kind of the ideal or the model in terms of light pollution protection. And unsurprisingly, those are the 9 councils who fall within areas that have been designated as international dark sky places in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So with that background there, that basically we've got environmental impacts and harms that come from it, and that we have little to no laws that are really pertinent here to help protect dark skies. These were a series of recommendations that first project that we made there. And so what my project here now is doing is it's picking up on this series of recommendations and using them as the basis to set the research aim for my project now. Basically, the thrust of those recommendations is that we need law, we need policy, we need something to help protect our dark skies. And so what my research aim to do is to develop governance for the protection of dark skies in Aotearoa, New Zealand, that incorporates Mataranga Māori, or Māori knowledge, into it. So how do I exactly plan to go about doing this? So my plan over the next few months is to travel to the locations that have been certified as international dark sky places in Australia and Aotearoa, New Zealand, by the nonprofit organization Dark Sky International. And in fact, after I speak today, we'll be hearing from the New Zealand president of Dark Sky International. So hopefully we dovetail here. And the IDSP program, it certifies communities, parks, and protected areas around the world that preserve and protect dark skies through encouraging responsible lighting policies and through programs of public education. During these visits, I've identified the following as stakeholders in the community that I'm keen to meet with, recognizing, of course, that people wear multiple hats and that there needs to be some sort of flexibility here. But at the most fundamental level, they have some sort of connection with the dark sky site. If you were one of these people, please contact me, please. So during these visits, so what are these lenses here all about? Intersectionality. So I'm keen to hear from those stakeholders, but in particular, I'm keen to hear from more marginalized voices, such as Indigenous peoples, and in particular, Indigenous women who may have different views, thoughts, and feelings on what is needed or what is required in relation to the protection of dark sky spaces. And what am I hoping to gain here? I'm hoping not only to gain a network of people who are the key stakeholders, meaning in terms of law, rights bearers, and duty holders, but also to understand the social and institutional effects of domestic and international law that's pertinent to New Zealand in the context of the promotion and protection of dark skies and Indigenous rights, ultimately to evaluate what has worked well and what could be improved upon. So making a comparison and being able to compare between Australia and New Zealand. Why is this important? As I start to conclude here, it's important particularly within the context of Aotearoa, New Zealand, because of our constitutional obligations. So Te Tiriti, or the Treaty of Waitangi, is our founding constitutional document, and it guarantees partnership, amongst other things, with Māori. And one of those things is Tino Rangatiratanga, which means authority, roughly. We've talked about that language translation issue, but roughly authority. And it guarantees Māori authority over their tauna, or their treasure. And the dark sky is tauna, it is treasure. So constitutionally, we need law that has this balance. I'm a realist. The petition most recently for legislation in relation to making dark skies I just got the sign in making dark skies protected, at least in terms of local regulations with light pollution. That was recently rejected just in March of this year by the government. They basically said, we've got other things that we're dealing with, but it's not surprising really, I think, under the current government. So I know it'll be an uphill battle, but nonetheless, that's my project. You know, ALAN is here, ALAN is increasing, it's not going away. And my hopes is that we can make a bit of a difference by education policy and hopefully legislation to help preserve our dark skies. And, oh, that's not me. I thought I had, oh, it's cut it off. I had my email address there, but if you are interested in being in touch, just contact me, come up to me afterwards. We can share email and whatnot. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I'm sorry we're running a little bit behind because of the technical issues, but we will take one question. Well, you had your hand up first, sorry.
Fascinating, Shea, thank you. There are a whole lot of initiatives. Your work is exceptional, but we've also got people like John Henshaw trying to make New Zealand a dark sky nation. Is there any coordinating body? For example, it's the Royal Society of New Zealand trying to provide some kind of overview collaboration on this, or are you working all independently?
So our next speaker, Nalayini, is probably better placed to answer that question as president of Dark Sky International. But I do know Nalayini and I, for instance, have been working very closely together. So I have the full support of Dark Sky International. We were most recently, Wayne, as we were talking about the other day, at the Royal Astronomical Conference for New Zealand in Whakatane the other month, and I met up with John and Steve. So yes, I think everyone's in touch with each other, at least everyone I know. What about that area of people I don't know? But hence going around at these conferences, trying to reach out and make those connections. If there's anything officially coordinated, not that I'm aware of, but we're all in touch and we're talking to one another. So, and I believe Nalayini will be able to tell you about she's the driver. I mean, she's the force of nature that you're about to get that's going to tell us exactly what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. But yes, people are in contact with one another.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. I think you've just been given a great introduction.
I know.
Here we go.
I hope I can live up to it.
Oh, I'm sure you'll do great.
I'm not an academic. I'm more a practical person. And I like to get results and make a difference. And by nature, I'm an optimist. So here is a story about dark skies as with New Zealand as a case study. So yesterday, Rain asked me, what are dark skies? And I realized that we can't presume that everyone knows what dark skies are. Dark skies are simply natural night skies. That's all it is. And natural light skies are not dark, not pitch dark. There's light in the night sky. There's the moon, which is the biggest polluter of stars. And there are various other phenomena. Even the Milky Way increases night sky brightness. So that's me. Because it is an Indigenous astronomy conference, I have focused on how dark sky conservation supports Indigenous astronomy, and also New Zealand as a case study, because that's where I live. So that's me. I wear lots of hats. I'm the president of Dark Sky International. I'm on the board of ADSA, which is an Australian charity pursuing dark skies. I'm the immediate past president of Royal Astronomical Society, and I founded New Zealand Dark Sky Network, where all the dark sky parties are connected. So Dark Sky International, it is formerly known as International Dark Sky Association. It is actually the words dark skies were coined by two astronomers, one professional, one amateur, because it's astronomers who go out and look at the night sky every night. They saw the degradation and they decided to do something about it. So they coined the word dark skies, and they formed a company called International Dark Sky Association. The Americans, when they start anything, they make it international. So although it was US based, it was titled International Dark Sky Association. It was 37 years ago in 1988. It's now rebranded itself as Dark Sky International. And light pollution is a global problem, and night skies are commonly owned by everyone on Earth. So today it has become, or it's working to become international. I've been part of that journey. And it has a global presence of 5,000 odd members, 3,500 volunteers. It's a charity, it's a not-for-profit in 108 countries. We have 105 chapters in 32 countries. There are 2 chapters in Australia, one in Melbourne and one in Tasmania. And Ladislaus here from Tanzania is the president of the Tanzanian chapter. And the one that I am particularly keen on is certifying dark sky places. This is an award-winning program. We have 246 places in 29 countries, in 7 continents certified as of now, and it's only increasing by the year. The reason I find this particularly compelling reason for Dark Sky International to be active in is because we all have dark skies. We have, especially Australia and New Zealand, we have lots of dark skies, but they are getting degraded, and certification ensures that there are policies in place and practices in place that protects it for future generations. This is to make sure that our children, their children, and their children can enjoy the night skies and appreciate it the way we have. So this is to protect it. That's the real aim of that. The board of directors are now sourced from 8 countries. So astronomy is something that's practiced by Indigenous cultures. I have done some studies on how the scientific reason behind Matariki. It's empirical science. It is science nevertheless, but it's by observation that they have come to right conclusions in a number of instances. So because it's an oral tradition, traditional astronomy, it was never really written down. It was all stories and songs and passed from generation to generation. But in recent years, books are being published to document the learning for future generations. So it's making it future-proof, basically. So in New Zealand, Matariki, published by Professor Rangi Matamoa, which a lot of you might know, was a sort of a groundbreaking publication at that time. He discovered some scrolls prepared by his grandfather, and he pulled this together just very recently in 2017. Wales, we do a lot of work in Wales because my husband's from Wales, and I've met Martin Griffiths. So the Welsh stories are actually lost. Their traditional stories have been lost. So Martin Griffiths, who worked to certify Brecon Beacons National Park as a dark sky place, went back, looked at their classics, Mabinogion in particular, pulled out the stories there and connected it to the night sky. So this is retrieving something using his knowledge and expertise. And then this book, Carly and Crystal, in 2022, the reason I put that book there is that is also, it has 6 chapters and one is devoted to dark skies. They're actually campaigning for dark skies. There's mention of astrotourism as well. So these research and documenting of oral and long lost cultures appear to have been at least in part motivated by the dark sky movement, which was the movement founded by Dark Sky International in 1988. So it is working. Then this is an important slide. I've sort of put it as an astronomer here. Basically, the red line at the bottom is the night sky brightness of a naturally unpolluted night sky. I'll only look at the columns on the right. The middle one is Milky Way visibility. So you can see that Milky Way is only visible when it gets closer to the natural night sky. The approximate visible magnitude, that's the measurement astronomers use. It's a very old, thousands of years old Hipparcos scale. So the higher the number is, fainter the stars. So if you look at it there, the fainter stars and magnitude needs darker skies. So indigenous astronomy is practiced naked eye. No one uses telescopes. So it's very important. That's the only aid you have got. So the dark skies are important. Urban night skies, you can do magnitude 3 to magnitude 4. So around here. Milky Way is not visible. You can see about 200 stars. But the rural night skies and the dark skies, you go further down, it's magnitude 6.8, and you can see as many as 5,000 stars. And Milky Way, to see the Milky Way, you need magnitude 6+. So you can see that the dark skies are virtually critical for any kind of observing. And if you are looking at dark nebulae, like the Coalsack Nebula, you need the Milky Way. So dark skies are absolutely critical for indigenous astronomy practices to continue. And 10,000 generations before us saw the Milky Way every night. This was something, that's why these indigenous practices are so rooted in the night sky, because that's what our generations did. And terrestrial light pollution is only 130 years old. So this problem of Elan cropped up 130 years ago. And the satellite problem is far more recent. So these are new things that are coming to spoil these long-standing practices. And I'm an astronomer, so I have come at dark skies from an astronomical point of view. But the indigenous point of view is much stronger, in my opinion, because we have now, astronomers have put observatories in space. So terrestrial observation is becoming less important for professional astronomers. So anyway, I now shift to comparing New Zealand dark skies. I'm introducing New Zealand as a case study. So in the global case, we are losing the dark night sky. These are a third of humanity can no longer see the Milky Way. This is going from 10,000 generations seeing it every night. 80% of the Earth landmass suffers from light pollution, and 99% of the people in Europe and the US can't see the night sky because of artificial light pollution. The story in New Zealand is a little bit different. It's abundant. Dark skies are abundant, but it's under threat. So these are the maps. You can see how dark New Zealand is, especially the South Island. This is a picture. The bottom one is a picture from Aotea, Great Barrier Island. I was instrumental in converting it to a certified dark sky sanctuary. These are things we can see visually. This is a photograph, so the camera sees a bit more. But even visually, you can see the 2 Magellanic Clouds. You can see the Coalsack Nebula. You can see the Southern Cross pointers, all of that, Carina. So Milky Way visibility in New Zealand is fantastic. From 96.5% of the land area, you can see it. And pristine night sky is more than half the night sky. I'm getting the sign that I got to hurry up. So night sky protection is for future generations. Okay. So in New Zealand, there are 9 places certified as dark sky places. It's very popular in New Zealand. We appreciate our night skies. If I go back to the previous slide, it's 2 thin, long islands. So most New Zealanders are familiar with glorious night skies. They've all seen the Milky Way. And half an hour's drive from Auckland, where a third of the population lives, our house is 4 kilometers from city center. If we are prepared to drive half an hour, we can see the Milky Way in all its glory. So as a result, the awareness of the night sky is very high in New Zealand. So communities have worked hard to protect the night skies, and it's actually at an increasing rate because there are 20 plus communities that are aspiring to become dark sky places. So in total, we'll have 30 communities as dark sky places over the next coming years. 3.7% of the 246 certified places are in New Zealand, even though we account for 0.01% of the global land mass. But only 5.4% of the land area is protected in New Zealand. We are forecasting to protect up to 15%. And if you include the national parks, it could go up to 30%. There's rapid growth in astrotourism, and this is a driver, as we'll see later on in the talk. And increased public and political awareness. One of the advantages of 30 aspiring dark sky places is 30 of our 120 members of parliament are aware of this community need. They go and speak to the MP. So there's a high level of awareness in the political arena as well. Apart from the fact that Gareth and I have been sending Royal Astronomical Society calendars to them for the last 3 years. So I'll stop here and switch to astrotourism. Astrotourism had become, we noticed at Dark Sky International, the flip side of the dark sky certification coin. So about 18 months ago, we undertook a survey. I was leading this survey and had people like Connie Walker and Mike Simmons and Samyukta in the working group. They're all directors of Dark Sky International. And the findings surprised us. So the response rate was 52%. This was not really a survey, it was a census. So this is a very robust response rate because we went to every dark sky place there was. And it was also very representative geographically and by designation. And what we found is dark sky places are actually supporting astrotourism, which was not the intention, but that was what was happening. So we asked the question, what's the potential for astrotourism? Was that a part of your application to protect your dark skies? 83% said, yeah, it was important and very important. So this economic possibility was a driver for a lot of these places. 100% of the reserves said yes, and 85% of the parks. So Siding Spring, Warrumbungle is a reserve. So I better rush now. So basically, 64% started beforehand. It's leading to 94% protecting good lighting practices, 93% environmentally friendly, and indigenous astronomical practices are integrated, 75% in Asia, 57% in Australasia, 45% in Europe, 38% in North America. Then we designed some principles, and I'll just leave, this is the First Peoples culture. We made that a principle, and we made it very clear that is something we expect them to do. And these are the growth rates of astrotourism, which is stunning statistics there. In New Zealand, tourism is a very vital contributor to our economy. 20% of exports, 9.3% of GDP, and it's been targeted as a high growth segment by the current government. Indigenous participation in astrotourism in New Zealand is also very impressive. Auraki Mackenzie, the leading astrotourism player there is Dark Sky Project. It's an 11 million facility, 45,000 visitors per annum, and they run tours in English, Mandarin, and Japanese. There are plane loads flying straight into Christchurch for astrotourism. It started in 2004. It got certified in 2012. It was the astrotourism operators who were behind this move. In 2016, they formed a partnership with Naitahu. That is the biggest land owning, biggest EV with biggest land rights in New Zealand. Almost all of the South Island, they have the historical and indigenous rights there. And in 2025, we celebrate the 20th anniversary with a stamp issue led by Naitahu. So this is what they are trying to achieve, ensuring the protection of this tanga, the treasure, for future generations and weaving Mātauranga Maori traditional knowledge into the experience. So that's basically what it is. And right around New Zealand, there are astrotourism. I'll just go through quickly. Matariki public holiday, 63% of the New Zealanders celebrated Matariki, and about a third wanted to look at the cluster. So Matariki observing magnitude, you can observe it from the urban center because combined magnitude is 1.6, but individually, 5 of the 9 stars, you can't see it from urban, and they all have meaning for the Maori. I'm going to just skip pollination navigation, dark sky nation. This is what the government, I'm an optimist, and like Shea is practical. So the government said, this was actually spoken in the House of Parliament, the government is investigating what the requirements are for New Zealand to be nationally accredited with Dark Sky International to become a dark sky nation. Space industry, we know the problems, and there's a tension between commercial and indigenous needs. This is worth talking about. International Dark Sky Association took the FCC and SpaceX to court. It was a case of David and Goliath, but we did take them to court. We lost the case, but the court decided that Dark Sky International had standing, which means we have a right to take to court. So where are we at? Light pollution is growing fast. It's an easy pollution to manage. What is next? So this is my request. This gathering of international communities, could you collectively support the dark skies movement through a declaration or pledge? We are always stronger as a group than individually. So my question was, if you're willing to come up with a pledge through your organization, ISAC, so that we can stand together. Dark Sky International is an international organization. And while Shea is working at the national level, New Zealand, which I'm supporting her, we can also work at an international level because Indigenous rights are very strong. And so that was one. And two, if you have all these research you're doing on Indigenous practices, if possible, have them protected for the future by seeking dark sky certification. The person to talk to is Gareth. He's on the committee that approves dark sky places. So there are things you can do to protect it, tangibly protect it, through certifying it through controls, and then a declaration. This can move the needle much faster for everyone together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. We're running behind a little bit on time, but please, if you've got any questions, grab the speakers during coffee breaks, tea breaks, and during lunch. It's a great opportunity to keep these conversations going. So we're just going to move on from there. So Danielle, come speak to us about Indigenous ties to dark skies.
All right, thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here. Let's thank Dwayne and all the organizers. This has been a fantastic conference so far. My name is Danielle Adams, and I am a cultural astronomer who focuses on Indigenous Arabian astronomy, historically, mostly. And I am also serving as the interim executive director for the Flagstaff Dark Skies Coalition. And I'm engaged in astrotourism. And so these three things are mostly where I find myself working. The Flagstaff Dark Skies Coalition is 25 years old this year. And 24 years ago, in 2001, we proposed the idea of the Dark Sky Places program. And then later that year, Flagstaff became the world's first international dark sky place. This is what Flagstaff looks like, just from a couple miles away from city center, looking down into the city. What you see here, obviously, is an amber glow. There are three things we do to protect the night. One, we limit the amount of lumens that businesses and individuals may produce. Second, we regulate where the light goes. It should be shielded and go down, not into the sky. But the single most important thing we do is we regulate the spectrum of light. We use amber in most situations and narrow band amber for most of them. That allows us, as a city of 77,000 people, to see the Milky Way from our downtown. This is a map that we created recently. This shows where the United States currently is. This is the brightness of the sky glow, seen from these locations in the United States. And as we've seen before, beautifully set up by the earlier speakers, in the US, more than 80% of people cannot see the Milky Way where they live. But if they all did what Flagstaff has done, that is what the United States would look like. And you would see the Milky Way even from our major cities, for real. So why does this matter? Well, all week long, we've been hearing about stories from different cultures around the world. And many of our stories depend on visibility of extremely faint naked eye stars. Picture on the left is taken from my home in Flagstaff with an iPhone, 77,000 people. Picture on the right, a few more miles out, so you can see a little bit more detail in the Milky Way. Arizona. And this was the image taken when we earned our International Dark Sky City status. These mountains are sacred to numerous tribes around our area. And so I want to take a moment to honor them, their past and present and future generations who have lived in that region for many millennia and will call that place home forever. So this is where I live. Where I study is Arabian skies and cultures, and especially going back in time, reconnecting those ancient skies to our modern day skies. So we're going to take a look at this swath of sky here, which you'll see in the Northern Hemisphere on a late summer evening. And we're going to look at 6 IAU star names, one of them quite new, Suzanne. And let's start with Vega and Altair first. These are bright stars, right? Vega is 0.0. It's the stellar, the foundation for the magnitude scale. But the names depend on some other faint stars. So in Arabic, these 2 stars together are called An-Nasran, the 2 vultures. And there's a reason. Each star has its own name. Altair is An-Nasr al-Ta'ir, and al-Ta'ir became Altair. It's the flying vulture because the 2 stars next to the bright star are in a line. So it's the outstretched wings of the vulture as it's soaring through the air. Now, Vega is coming from An-Nasr al-Waqi'a, and Waqi'a became Vega in Latin. And in English, we just don't know how to pronounce Latin because the V sound, the V letter should sound like a W. So it should be Vega. And this was the alighting vulture. It has 2 faint stars that appear above it when it is setting together with the flying vulture into the horizon. And those upstretched wings are what you see when a vulture alights onto a surface, possibly to feed from some carrion. And so they're the two vultures. If we look at the magnitudes of the stars here, the two faint stars that make the V shape are 4th and 5th magnitude. And under light polluted skies, they disappear. So no V shape, no Vega, even though Vega itself is a bright star. Let's look at another one, Aruba. This is itself a very faint star. So we have a story of 4 camel mothers, stars of varying brightnesses, that are surrounding an extremely faint star. And in much of Arabian astronomy, we see that faint stars are younger animals or people sometimes. And so we have these 4 stars surrounding a very, very faint star in the middle. Aruba means the young camel in its first year that was born in the spring. We have 2 stars nearby that are the 2 wolves. They are wanting to eat this tasty young spring camel. And so the mothers are protecting the young camel. And our friend, the alighting vulture, is coming in to help protect the young camel as well. Now let's look at the magnitudes. We've got an array of magnitudes for the camel mothers. But Aruba itself, 5.8. Very faint. And of course, under light polluted skies, there is no Aruba. There is no story without Aruba, without the young camel to protect. This is what we stand to lose if we allow the continued degradation of our skies. Ras al-Naka. We have this glorious she camel in the sky. It's so fabulous. Can you make it out? Let me help you. Okay, let me go back. See this? We have a perfect trail of 5th magnitude stars that make this beautiful camel's neck. We have the brighter stars. You may recognize that as Cassiopeia. That's forming much of the hump and body. The head is coming from 4th magnitude stars. But that beautiful neck is coming from 5th magnitude stars. No neck, no camel. Here, I want to pause and take a look at 5 brand new, as of 2 months ago, IAU recognized star names. One here is Ras al-Naka, which I've mentioned here. It's Iota Andromedae. That's at the front of the head of the she camel. So this is an indigenous Arabian star name. 1 star in is Kefel Musalsala. This is an Arabic description of Greek astronomy. Kefel Musalsala means the hand of the chained maiden. So that's Kappa Andromedae. The bright one at the top of the camel's head is Utkudua. This is a Babylonian star name that represented the foot or ankle of the Babylonian demon. And then we have 2 more, a little bit to the north, also in Andromeda. Al-Faras al-Camel describes the complete horse, which was possibly an invention of a Sufi, a little bit uncertain about that, but made from mostly faint stars that form the outline of a horse. And then Honores is honoring King Frederick, I believe. So 5 new IAU recognized star names in this region of sky. So let's look at 2 more Arabian stars. Sebel Rai in Ophiuchus. We have 2 rows of stars that in Arabic are called Anasakam. The 2 rows, 2 fence lines, if you will. And together with the Milky Way, they create a triangular patch of sky, which was called Arauda, the meadow. So everything in the meadow was sheep and goats, flocks of sheep and goats. And the brightest star in the middle is Ra'i, the shepherd. The second brightest star is our friend Sebel Rai. In Arabic, Kelb Ra'i, the shepherd's dog. So the shepherd and his dog are moderately bright stars, but we lose all of the sheep or most of the sheep and goats under light polluted skies. And indeed, we lose the Milky Way. So there is no meadow without that boundary of the Milky Way and the two chains of moderately bright stars. One more, El Belda. This is at the extreme end. Today, we apply El Belda to this star, Pi Sagittarii, but it wasn't originally so. We have two groups of ostriches, Na'a'in. One group, Na'am El-Wadid, are the drinking ostriches. They're drinking from the river, the Milky Way. And then the other group are the returning ostriches. They've already drunk from the river and are heading back home. Well, where is their home? The wasteland. And between the ostriches and the wasteland, where the modern named star El Belda is, there's a semicircle of stars. That's the ostrich nest. And ostriches lay their eggs spread out wide so that they're less subject to predation. So this area called the wasteland is literally a region devoid of bright stars. It's an asterism that has no star. And so, of course, we cannot see this under light polluted skies. But look at this. This area of no stars attained such prominence that it got its own rhymed prose. In Arabic, this says, إذا طالعت البلدة حممت الجعدة وأكلت القشطة وقيل للبرد إحدى. And that means when rises the wasteland with wall barley sprouts, the earth is blackened, eaten is clarified butter's sediment, and it is said to the cold, relent. So it's a time of cold, obviously, time when butter is eaten and wall barley sprouts blacken the earth. That's the same verb that's used to describe a man's stubble as the beard is growing and the stubble blackens the face. So this was a saying applied to this area of sky that has no stars, relatively so. And we've got a bunch of fifth magnitude stars in this wasteland. And under dark skies, of course, it all disappears. There is no river for the ostriches to drink from or return from. There is no wasteland. So these are just six examples among hundreds of Arabic star names, but they demonstrate very well what we stand to lose, what we have in fact already lost in many places around the world, and why this is so very important. In addition to the benefits to animals and plants and humans physically, there's a cultural loss that is happening. And there was a study that was done a year ago that in the United States found that those who live under dark skies are more likely to wonder about the universe. And that wonder is the engine that drives creativity and ingenuity. And this is what we stand to lose. All week long, we've been hearing the results of that wonder. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks so much, Danielle. That's fantastic. I've got a quick question. So the slide you were talking about the ostrich and laying the eggs. Curiously, I know in a lot of Aboriginal cultures here, that's exactly the spot in the sky of the emu, which is what traces out the ostrich.
So the ostrich, in Arabian astronomy, there are some connect the dot constellations, but many are individual stars representing individual animals or people. So this is 2 groups of 4 ostriches.
Oh, great, okay. So, other question?
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel, for excellent presentation. You have shown that the Shea camel is in the area of the Andromeda Nebula, the galaxy.
Yeah.
Is there any connection to the Shea camel of this? Because you can see that with naked eye. So there is any connection with it?
Not with the she camel, but this is also a great demonstration of what you lose with skies that are not starlit or dark. The Andromeda galaxy was featured in 2 different asterisms in Arabia. One was one of the 2 great fishes being I believe the tail or at the mouth of the fish, I think. And then it featured in another fish as the tail. The nearby grouping fuzzy bit here on the left, also at the same level of the Andromeda galaxy, is the double cluster in Perseus. That was the tattoo on the wrist of another asterism. So these diffuse objects in the sky were indeed used as parts of the stories.
Thank you so much. Thanks,
Yep.
Danielle. Great talk. Do we have a very quick question online?
Are the stories the same from tribe to tribe, region? How did it very similar?
Oh wow! I wish we knew that answer. Most of the information we have is stripped of specific tribal connections. So it literally just says the Arabs, and there were hundreds of tribes. So that has been artificially flattened for us. We can tell some things from the poetry that survives because we know the tribes of the poets. But that is representative of just a small portion.
Thanks, Danielle. Okay, we're next going to be hearing from Ahmad, Bely.
Good morning, respected chairs and fellow participants. Before that, I'm so sorry for my voice is a bit cracking because I have a bit high fever actually. So before that, my name is Ahmad Hariz bin Bely from University Sultan Al Abedin, Malaysia. Today, I would like to present my one subtopic from my thesis master, which is about spatial modeling of ALAN, which is artificial light at night, at Pusat Astronomy Borneo, or our call is PAB. So I'm sure that everyone here have their dream home. So when you want to build a home or want to choose where our house should be, either in the mountain, either in beach, or either in the city, or maybe somewhere not far away from our child's schools or not far away from our workplace, that should be applied to when we want to build an observatory. So when the state government in my country want to build an astronomical observatory, it must meet the appropriate astronomical criteria. So in my thesis, I included the criteria for light pollution mapping, the radio frequency interference, statistical analysis, and of course, including the sync with the environmental factor. So because they are my, but before that, if you see in my original thesis, it's included about the RFI, seeing, and vero factor, and light pollution. Just because the state government want to build the observatory, including in 3 optical telescope and 1 antenna for radio. So in my thesis, actually, it look like a little bit big, like big dinner for the one child, because for master level, actually, my supervisor said that this 4 parameter should be in your PhD, but yeah, because the government is my scholarship provider, I need to hear and listen to them. So going back to our tradition here, we know that artificial light at night or alarms refer to the human-made lighting that affect the natural darkness of night sky. So this light pollution not only threaten to the astronomical observation, but also disrupt the ecosystem, human health, and cultural connection to night sky. In my study, it's focused on the PAB, which is Pusat Astronomi Borneo, and which is assessed to the study focus on site testing optical for site sensitivity for PAB. So we know that in Borneo, the night sky has a deep cultural significance. Indigenous community as well as from Dayak people or in Malay, indigenous knowledge have a long relied on the celestial observation for agriculture, navigation, and rituals. It's preserving, the night skies mean preserving the cultural heritage. So safeguarding the indigenous sky knowledge for the artificial light. So for this conference, I will just focus on to develop a comprehensive sustainability models for PAB itself as a ground-based astronomical observatory observation purpose using GIS based on which is introduced as multi-brightness metric for Alan. So what is multi-brightness metric? I will going to describe what is MBM after this slide. So before that, based on the minute meeting on 2021, the state government have choose Santubong as location that should be where this observatory has to be built. So PAB or Pusat Astronomi Borneo, or in English we said that Astronomy Center in Borneo Astronomy Center, which is proposed to be in Santubong area, serve as the key for the astronomy education, public outreach, and research center. Actually, in the official state secretary meeting on the early stage, I quite disagree with this proposal of the research center to be combined with astrotourism, because in my opinion, research center for astronomy should be standalone without the astrotourism. So the KPI for the research team should have high impact. And that's my opinion, but because again, the government is the provider for my scholarship and need to listen to them. Yeah. So the site is surrounded by the mixed land used by the residential area, tourism zone, and natural landscape. And what more important is, the mountain Tubong itself is sacred for the Dayak people. They believe that this mountain is where the source gathering after the pass away. So, Santubong Night Sky is not just a canvas for a scientific observation. It's hold a deep cultural, spiritual, and historical meaning for the people of this island. So for Dayak community of the Borneo, it's a bit of iron belt. It's just before the sunrise, before May and June. It's a celestial signal marking the time to open the land and begin the forest exploration. This carrot marking align with the Kawai ritual, which is a harvest celebration that honor the spirit of rice and fertility. The actual rice planting season peak around June, coinciding with the summer solstice, which is 31st of June, where the day are the longest and the sun shine the brightest, symbolic of the growth, the abundance, and the life. This was seen as the ideal time of the Dayak people to plant their rice, and as the rainfall decrease and allow the young crop to flourish. So as the heart of this cultural landscape, we know that Mount Santubong itself believe of Dayak and Iban people to be a sacred gathering place for those gathering place of our souls after pass away, which is living mountain woven into the myth, legend, and the sky stories. Actually, for the Mount Santubong itself have the very great legend. It's Mount Santubong. That Santubong name is actually from the princess from the heaven, or we call it from Kayangan. So Kayangan is represented as a heaven. So the Prince Santubong going down from the heaven, going to the earth, helping the people around the Borneo Island. Then one day, with her friends, which is Princess Sejinjang, had an agreement to find a boyfriend actually, which is Prince Serapi, also a mountain in Borneo. in Sarawak. So the argument have been have a lot of bad issues. A god in the heaven have accused them, and the Santubong, Princess Santubong, have become a mountain. So this is Mountain Santubong. And for the Malay community in Santubong, the sighting of a new crescent moon at the sunset focus on marking for 9 and 10th month of the lunar calendar, signal the start and the end of fasting month and celebration of Idul Fitri. Historically, the new moon was observed from the coastal foothill of the Santubong and showing how the local landscape has always framed the connection between sky and spiritual time. So adding to this rich heritage of the ancient monument and carving found in the region, as we can see here, there are 2 traditional burial poles, or we call it clearing, a place, a burial pole from a Punah, Bah, and Sekapan people, which is apart from the Dayak people, which stand as a symbol of the journey between earth and sky. And if you guys like adventures, hiking, so Mount Sotobang will have a medium, or not medium, a high medium of trail. Then you will find one batu bergambar, or we call it as a human face carved in the stone. We call it batu bergambar Datuk Merpati Jepang. It's believed that this represent gambar, this stone, which have a face right there, is actually have been believed from we call it as a Datuk Merpati, the person which is come from the Java Island. We have been a leader for that state around 12th century. And then the last one, the stone above is what is it? A petrograph at Sungai Jauh in Santubong, which is rock carving of 1,000 years old, which is just founded last year actually. These symbols that's founded is a symbol for the early maritime trade, iron smelting, and possibly have the celestial significance ritual. So together, these stories show the people of Borneo have looked at the sky as a guide for the time, navigation, and the dream of the life. So for Dayak people, they call the Arabian, based on the alphabet, they will see the as the time that show for the what time should be the harvest, the fertilizing of the rice. Another part, actually, Orion, on Dayak people, they call the Orion is a belantik. And that's belantik, actually, in the Dayak people, they see is not as a hunter, but they see is a boat trapper, or the pig trapper. Okay, this is how the Dayak people seeing the Orion as a belantik or as a pig trapper, actually. Yeah. Okay, again, going back to my discussion, here is my methodology. Okay. So my methodology combine ground-based measurement and satellite data, which is sky brightness, have been measured using SQM, sky altimeter, and after that calculate to be a candela for the luminous value, and then an ELM negative azimuth magnitude, and the bottom scale classification. Okay, I'm not sure what happened here. And here is we use the GIS to map and evaluate this data set and apply the MCDM, which is multi-criteria decision making, and AHP analytic hierarchy process to generate the final suitable map. Okay, I will skip this part. Okay. This is a special model for using the sky brightness measurement. If you can see here, when we want to build the observatory, where should be the observatory to be built? So, except the mountain area. So here is our study, based on study area. This is where we mapping, this is the result for the mapping for sky brightness value. If you can see on the, where is it? On your left or on your right? Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah. On your left, you can see the darkest part is the best area for build the observatory to be compared with the observation and the prediction. So based on the Fauci paper, I'm using the prediction value from the Fauci to be compared with the light pollution map. And for the observation, we're using SQM, then using ArcGIS, then here is ArcGIS for GIS, here is the result for the sky brightness mapping. This is Candela, using the Candela, you can see the difference, a bit difference between the prediction and observation itself, and it have a difference between the sky brightness value and with Candela value mapping. It also same here. The darkest part is the most suitable part for to build the observatory. Yeah, this is a naked eye limited magnitude, as we see from the previous presenter. Yeah, I also agree with the previous presenter. Naked eye limited magnitude should be the value which is astronomer should be used to compare or to analyze the sky brightness, or to analyze the brightness value to be compared with the cultural knowledge. Because with a naked eye limited magnitude, we can see what the elders from the ancient people from the before us can be compared with the present sky. Yeah, this is the first design of 2021. And then after I finished my study, as you can see here, they actually have three dome for the optical. The first dome is for the solar study. The second is for discovery, and the third one is for the solar, lunar, and discovery. Yeah, lunar, solar, and discovery. And there are one antenna for radio. So because the government want to build the three optical and one radio antenna, this is the first degree without discuss with the astronomer. Yeah, you can see suddenly they have put the antenna radio near the human interference. But on 2025, and this January, after I finished my thesis, after have a fight with the government and so on, they have agreed to put the radio antenna to be a little bit far from the human-made sources of interference, and here is the latest design for the PAB itself. So yeah, and this is the facility that have been discussed for the PAB itself, and for the three telescope, the government have going to the German, UAE, and European. So to discuss and to decide what kind of telescope and what kind of dome they want to use. Yeah. Yeah. Here is going to the, oops, for that. Yeah. For the conclusion, a combination of all the parameter, either of observation or prediction, based on the final, actually I have put the final mapping here, but it has been seen here. Maybe I forget to put it here. Based on the final mapping, actually, I have combined the observation and the prediction, merge it into the mapping, so it's easier to be government to choose where the observatory should be put. And based on that mapping, they have been chosen one point in that mapping, which called Tengah Padang, or in English, the center of the fields, to be where is the optical for the PAB optical telescope should be built. For the radio, actually they're still in discussion where to put the radio antenna, because I'm still strongly believe that the radio antenna should be put in the top of the mountain, or top or a little bit down. Yeah, it's best still in discussion, because in my case, I believe that there are just two areas to put where is the antenna radio. But in this conference, I'm just sharing about optical. So this three optical will be put in the Tengah Padang, or the center of the fields, because this area have the most suitable one based on the multi-brightness metric, which I combine sky brightness, candela, and ELM and water scale. So if you guys want to have collaboration, feel free to contact us. I'm also a part of Dark Sky Malaysia, and he is my supervisor. And with that, I raise my case. Thank you. But before that, in Dayak people, I'm wishing you all Gayu Guru Granyamai, which meaning wishing you all a rich prosperity and good health. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very well done. Do you want to answer one question? Sure. We have one question from.
I was wondering about those two radio sites. Are you actually modeling those ones as well? Because that are, and how are you doing that?
Okay, in my original thesis, for the EM, for the radio wavelength, I discussed this method in second objective, and then I'm discussing the radio in two terms. The first is statistical analysis using a kurtosis and skewness, and the last one is using a mapping. For the site for the radio antenna, actually, I have two suggestions. The first suggestion is on the top of the mountain, but actually it have some argument because we know that this mountain is scattered for the Dayak people. We need the engagement with the indigenous people first because the top mountain is, they have a ritual on the top mountain for Dayak people, especially for Iban. And then because if that site cannot be choose, I'm going to the second plan B, which is a bit down, around 500 meters from the top actually. So it have a little bit shield. It is good for the radio antenna. I believe about that. But before that, if you have some suggestion, I will going to the Dr. Karen after this.
Thank you so much. Now, in the original program, our next speaker wasn't able to make it, so I was going to move a video up into this spot.